All right, we're live, baby. We're back with Insider Betting. My name's Adam Fishkin. Got Jesse Rowe here with me today. We're going to be going over UFC 301, and we're also going to be starting with the Canelo fight, as I think a lot of people are here to watch that. But first, Jesse, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited. I know that UFC 300 used up a lot of their big stars, so this is some people are considering this kind of a thin card. But I'm very happy with it because it has some Brazilian legends on there, or a Brazilian legend on there, which I'm happy to talk about. But in honor of fighting in Rio, I wore my tropical shirt. I bought this specifically for Cancun when I went on vacation a couple months ago. So
it's like
I am excited,
bro.
Yeah,
it's like you're there.
I'll be there in spirit.
There it is.
So
cool. Awesome, man. Yeah, no, you're right. This UFC 301 card is a little light. I'm a little worried about this one. It feels like there's a lot of legends. I don't want to say a lot of legends. You know, we got Jose Aldo, a legend. We got Anthony Smith, a legend. We got Paul Craig, great fighter. I don't know if he's like legend status, but very well known. We love him.
I was about to make a joke about Anthony Smith, but I shouldn't do it. I like Anthony Smith a lot. I was going to say, if you ask Anthony Smith, he's a legend. But I don't want to do that. I actually really like Anthony Smith, but he gets a hard time from the fans.
He does. Yeah. But all three of those fighters, well, two of them for sure. We got Anthony Smith and we got Paul Craig. Those guys are not favored by the book, but by the odd makers at all.
A lot of underdog, a lot of heavy favorites.
Yeah. So they're heavy underdogs. Jose Aldo, bit of an underdog, but But anyway, let's start with Canelo, dude. Big fight. Actually, it's not that big. I'm not super excited for it. Probably gonna go to decision. It's just like every other Canelo fight. I think he's like minus 570 or something like that. He's gonna win. But give us your breakdown on it. What are you thinking?
Well, on DraftKings right now, he's a minus 525. So I wonder if it's moved a little bit. Mujia is a plus 380. Mm-hmm. There's actually a lot of juice behind this fight. I know that it feels like this might be a clean sweep for Canelo, like that Mujia might be a little outmatched here. A lot of juice in this fight. I don't know if you saw the presser yesterday. De La Hoya and Canelo really got into it. So I was not excited for this fight very much at all. I like watching Canelo fight. He's obviously he's number one in the world. He's pound for pound number one. But as soon as I saw that press conference and how much just like anger and hatred there is between De La Hoya and Canelo, I was like, okay, now I'm into it. Because now it's really just a story. The storyline is it's Canelo versus De La Hoya's guy. That's what this really is. So it's Canelo versus De La Hoya. I don't think Mujia has much of a shot, but I do think he's obviously a very talented fighter. He's one of the prodigies over at Golden Boy. I think that you're making your value here betting in the fight props and by winning method, because surprisingly, it's actually pretty much even money. If Canelo wins by decision, it's a minus 105. So if you have Canelo winning by decision, it's minus 105. If you have him winning by KO or TKO, it's a plus 165. So it's really just a matter of how much you think Mujia can hang with Canelo. If you think that he can hang, then you're getting real good odds, to bet by decision there for Canelo.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to throw Canelo into a parlay, but if I was leaning towards a bet here, I would agree with you. Canelo by decision at minus 105 feels like a very good, safe bet.
Yeah, I agree. I was looking at the odds earlier as well, and there was I think it was slightly better odds for the fight to go over 10.5 rounds, which would align with our decision bet. So you could even kind of parlay with too, because I don't see a knockout happening in round 11 or 12, but so that over on the rounds is good.
Under 10.5 is a plus 155. Over 10.5 is a minus 215.
215.
So
okay.
The odds makers do think it's going to decision, but it's not that heavy where they're sure. I think that there's a little bit of I don't want to say like unsuredness in the betting, but I think it's like there's like a gray area there. It's really, I think, a testament to how good Mujia actually is, because he's bigger than Canelo. If you saw them facing off, Mujia was like kind of not towering over him, but he had a good 3 or 4 inches on him. Mujia looked really good against John Ryder. He TKO'd John Ryder. Canelo was unable to TKO John Ryder, although some people feel like he should have, that Ryder was out, that he should have won by TKO in that fight. It's close call. I would bet on the over, and I would stay away from the odds on that. I would just bet him to win by decision. Minus 215 is not enough juice. I would just bet on decision.
Yeah, I agree. Cool. Well, if you're just joining us, we just covered Canelo. He's gonna win. Surprise, surprise. We're gonna move on.
He is no slouch, but
it's gonna be Canelo.
Let's get the Benavidez fight. That's what people really want. I want to bet. You know what I want to bet on? I want to bet on how many times the camera panned to De La Hoya. That's what I want. If I could bet on that, the over under on pans to De La Hoya, I would absolutely bet on that. I would take the over on whatever it is. So
we'll need to hit up DraftKings and tell them to come with a little prop bet for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Cool. Well, if you're just joining us, we're going to touch on UFC 301 right now. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. We'll answer them live, or if there's a little too much, we'll keep it to the end there.
And if you think we're wrong, if you think our takes are garbage, let us know.
Please do.
We're happy to address it.
We're usually wrong. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
We've been on a bit of a hot run recently.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I can't complain. But yeah, let's talk 301. So I mentioned in the beginning that 301 seems like a little bit, well, there's heavy favorites on the main card, heavy favorites. The first 3 fights on the main card are the worst odds is minus 575. And
for the main card.
For the main card. Yeah.
Okay.
For the first 3 fights on the main card. Sorry. Right. So you have Paul Craig versus Baralho. Baralho is a minus 650 favorite. You got Michel Pereira versus Eor Pereira.
Poteria. Yeah. Poteria. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tough names on this one.
Yeah. So Michel Pereira, he's minus 600. And then you got Vitor versus Anthony Smith. Vitor is a minus 575. So a lot of heavy underdogs. You also have a lot of big, long-time UFC fighters who I don't want to say are on the way out because I like to keep it on a positive note, but are heavy underdogs. So it's going to be very, very interesting. You know, it almost feels like the UFC is setting up the new guys to win against the old guys to kind of hype up the new guys in Brazil. And all 3 of those fighters are also Brazilians. So, you know, it's going to be very, very difficult fights for the underdogs. But before we get to the main card, I want to touch on the Jack Shore versus Brito fight, because I don't think a lot of people are talking about it, but I think it's going to be an extremely entertaining fight. Jesse, I think you talked to Jack Shore. When was it? Last week?
Last week, yeah.
Yeah. So you and Jack talked last week. So give us a little bit of a breakdown. What are you thinking about this fight?
Yeah, Jack is a kickboxer. He's been recovering from injury, so he's been out for a while. The last time he fought, I think, was UFC 286, the Leon Edwards card, I believe. Mm-hmm. And so he said that he's been fighting in England the past couple of times that he's fought. Jack Shore is super excited, he told me, about fighting in a hostile territory of Brazil, one of the more hostile environments that you can fight in. Steve Erceg talked a little bit about this as well. He's obviously fighting in the main event. Shore has finishing power featherweight. He's really, really talented kickboxer, and he's a plus 140. So he's a little bit of an underdog. 73% of the bets so far that have come in are on Joanderson Brito. So the betting odds are favoring Brito's home field advantage. I think that Shore is my favorite underdog on the card. That's not like a super heavy underdog. He's my favorite. Like, I think you're getting very good value by betting on him on the money line, because I think that he's a guy that even if he's getting out grappled, he has finishing power, he has finishing capability, and I think he's super motivated. Like he's really recovered from tough injury over the past year, and I think he's ready to go. He's super amped up, and I like Jack Shore a lot.
I agree.
Money line.
I agree. Yeah. Jack Shore money line, I think, is a great bet. He is plus 140. I think it's great value. They're both 4-5 in their last fights as well. Joanderson Brito is on a 4-5 win streak, to be fair, while Jack Shore is on a 1-5 win streak, but both great talents. So I would also take Jack Shore plus 140. I think it's a great bet.
Yeah, I like that one. That's my favorite of the undercard.
Yeah. And then for the main card here, we got Paul Craig versus Chao Baralho. Interesting matchup. Paul Craig plus 470, Baralho minus 650. Braulio's undefeated, I believe, or maybe not undefeated, but he's 5 for 5 in his last 5. That's for sure. Paul Craig's got 3 losses in his last 5. Very hard to bet against Braulio. He's home court advantage. It's Rio de Janeiro. I just really don't see him losing at all.
I understand why you say that. I just want to say something about Paul Craig. He's like one of my favorite fighters. The dude is hilarious because he's like super intense at the face-offs. He wears like the Braveheart war paint on his face. Funny story about that. Mike Perry actually told him to do that. Mike Perry told Paul Craig to wear the face paint at face-offs and stuff. So he's super intense. He does the face-off in the ring. And then when he actually gets into the fight, he just pulls guard. He just lays on his back and he pulls guard and he wants to turn it into a jiu-jitsu match. So I like Paul Craig a lot. Just I want to point out a couple things. Paul Craig was fighting at light heavyweight, where he was probably a little bit undersized. He moved down to middleweight, and I think it's actually benefited him a little bit. He did lose to Brendan Allen. He had Allen in a little bit of danger in that fight in a couple of submission attempts. But then he ended up getting finished. I think it was the second round. I forget. Pretty easily for Allen. Pretty good win for Allen. Paul Craig is always a threat to submit you. He submitted 2 of the top light heavyweights in the world. He submitted former champion Jamal Hill, dislocated his elbow in that fight. And he submitted Magomed Ankalaev in the final seconds of their fight when he was going to go to decision and lose. So if you're looking for a sprinkle bet, Paul Craig by submission at plus 900 is interesting only because he's plus 900 is such good odds, and he's so good on the ground that he's always a threat to submit you. But I agree. I do think Braulio is going to win this fight. It's just worth noting. I wouldn't bet it on the money line. I'd probably look towards Braulio by KO or TKO or submission. Both of them are equally plus 225. So it could go either way in the odds makers' minds. If you could just bet by finish, I think that's a good one. Betting him by finish. So
interesting.
But just a little sprinkle. If you feel like just putting $10 down, you win $90 if Paul Craig submits him. Just saying.
Yeah. So. I just don't see Braulio knocking out Craig or submitting him. I do think it's going to go to decision because I think Craig can take a beating.
Okay.
And Braulio's also, I'm looking at his stats right now. 4 of his last 5 have gone to decision as well. So I would actually put Braulio at a plus 175 to win by decision. I think is a really good value bet over there.
I like that. Plus, Craig will try to turn it into a grappling match too, which slows down a lot of the action a little bit.
Exactly. So yeah, and I think that leaves some respect for Paul Craig there as well. I think
appreciate it. This is Paul Craig company here. We like Paul Craig.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're big fans. Cool. Next fight on the card is Michel Pereira versus Eor. I already didn't try to pronounce his last name once. I'm not going to do it again. Pereira is minus 600. Eor is plus 440. Again, you got the home court advantage.
Yeah.
5 for 5 in his last 5. It's very difficult to see him lose. I don't know. What are your thoughts there?
So it's interesting because Pereira was. I'm super confused. He was put up against, I think, some big matchups. Like, I think he was supposed to fight Shara Bullet for a minute. Shara, is it Nurmagomedov? I forget Shara Bullet's last name, but he was supposed to fight him. And then he's also, I'm seeing that he's scheduled on the Whitaker Chimaev card, but that might be a mistake. I don't know what that's about.
Interesting.
He's an interesting one. Pereira's 20-5. He's no slouch. I actually think you're getting like I'm confused by the odds on this one a little bit. If I'm being perfectly honest, I think Pereira should be a favorite, but like minus 625 just feels kind of crazy to me.
Yeah,
I would take Pereira and I would take him in a finish because I do think that he is like he's a wild man. Like he throws wild stuff. He's kind of like Johnny Walker in a way. He throws a lot of wild stuff at you, so he can connect and he can knock you out. But I don't know. I'm just confused by those odds a little bit. But in the sense of how I think it would end, I'm not touching it, to be honest. I don't like those odds. I'll throw Pereira in a parlay.
This is what I'd recommend doing is So Pereira has won his last 2 fights in the first round, but I think it was almost every fight before that went to decision or was like a post first round finish, right? So the odds right now is for the over under for rounds. If you bet the over 1.5 round, you're looking at plus 124, which I think is a decent bet there as well. And then I also think you might be able to sprinkle in a little bit on Pereira to win in the second round if you wanted to, because you get some really good odds there as well.
Plus 350 to win in the second round.
Yeah. So there's some good odds there, I think, for you with Pereira.
I like that because I think Ihor will be able to hold his own, and I could see like a late second round stoppage. Michel Pereira by decision too. I mean, you got to think about this stuff because you're in a home court advantage. So a lot of these Brazilian guys, if it goes to decision, they're gonna have some extra juice when it comes to the decisions. So you have to consider those. But because of his finish streak and everything, I do think Pereira, like a round 2 finish, is interesting. Yeah, I like that. I just think that a lot of these odds are so heavily favoring the Brazilians that I'm tempted. I'm tempted to do some underdog bets on this card. I haven't found one that I like besides Jack Shore yet, but maybe I'll find one.
We'll find one for you there.
Yeah.
Okay. Next on the card, we got Vitor Petrino versus Anthony Smith. This is a sad one. you have Anthony Smith who's 2 in his last 5. And I believe the 2 fights that he's won have both been against Ryan Spann. While Vitor is an undefeated Brazilian fighting in Brazil. So at minus 575, again, impossible to bet against him. It just feels like they're setting up this new, fresh, up-and-coming star to beat an old star and kind of build him up in the UFC a little bit. What are your thoughts on the fight?
Yeah, it feels like that to me. This is Vitor Petrino's shot to get into the rankings. Perfect card for him to do it too. Anthony Smith is no slouch, man. I mean, I know that fans like to say stuff about him a lot because he kind of, based on the way that it's a lot of it is foot and mouth disease for Anthony Smith. He says a lot of things that I think most people would disagree with, or maybe it's just coming from him. We got a comment here from Cody Gush saying Anthony Smith is washed. I understand why you feel that way. A lot of people do feel that way. He's fought in a lot of big fights, been in a lot of wars, just got knocked out by Khalil Roundtree. I do like Petrino here, but I do want some respect on Anthony Smith's name simply because he is a guy, he has all the tricks up his sleeve. He is a grizzled technical veteran who can win any fight. But yeah, Petrino. And I think Petrino by a finish is probably the way to go.
Yeah. Jonathan Martinez versus Jose Aldo.
By the way, 7 of his 11 wins have been by knockout in MMA, and yeah, so that's worth considering.
It's a good bet. I like it. Okay, Jonathan Martinez minus 148 versus Jose Aldo plus 124. Martinez is 5 for 5 in his last 5. This is his first really big fight, I'd say. But I know Jesse, you're a big fan of the OVEV last names, and Martinez has a win over Said Nurmagomedov, which means you would have lost that bet. So he's beat some decent talent, but again, Jose Aldo is Jose Aldo, right? But he's had a 2-year break. He is the king of Rio. It's a fight I just don't want to bet on.
Yeah,
I have Jose Aldo. I have him winning, but I don't know if I'm gonna actually put money on it because it's a tough one. I just don't want to bet against him. I actually like the prop bets on this one a lot better, and those are ones that I'm considering a lot more. So DraftKings actually offers a point spread which the way it works is I'm going to actually read you this example I found. So in a 3-round fight that requires a decision via the judges' scorecards, if all 3 judges scored the fight 29-28 for fighter A, and the point spread is fighter A minus 3.5, fighter A is the loser, and fighter B with a point spread of plus 3.5 is the winner, right? So right now, Jose Aldo is, I think, plus 3.5, which means, is this a 3-round fight or a 5-round fight? I wasn't sure.
I think it's a 3-round fight. That's a good question. I mean, it's his first fight back in 2 years. Don't quote me on that.
Okay. I also think it's a 3-round fight. So what these odds are saying is that they're expecting Jose Aldo to lose every single round against Martinez.
Okay. Because if it's a 3.5, they're expecting him. Oh, right. So it's a matter of, does he get a 10-8 or not, is basically what this comes down to.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
But I also don't see, I see this fight going to decision, I think. And if it does go to decision, I don't see Jose Aldo losing all 3 straight up. I think he might be able to pull one back. Something might happen in there. So I think plus 3.5 odds at minus 165 are actually is a great point spread to bet on for Aldo there.
I like it. My first thought was decision as well, but DraftKings has, so my first thought was decision win for Jonathan Martinez. By the way, this fight is the battle of great leg kicks. Jose Aldo has some of the best leg kicks of all time. Jonathan Martinez literally just TKO'd Adrian Yanez, friend of the program, with TKO'd him with leg kicks. And Yanez said that that dude's leg kicks were like the nastiest he's ever faced. So going to be a battle. You're going to see some great leg kicks in this fight. And now that I'm saying that, they're probably just going to stay away from each other, because they're aware of it. So I went decision in my mind, and for Martinez win by decision is a plus 140. So, but whereas it's a plus 1400 and a plus 350 for a submission or a TKO. So I'm like, okay, so Vegas is already onto this, so they agree with me. I like your idea that Aldo's going to win a round, which is why I'm going with split decision win for Jonathan Martinez. I'm going to take specific method of victory because I do think that one of the judges is going to have a questionable scorecard in favor of Jose Aldo. Because I do think this might be a fight that Aldo wants to go out on in Brazil in front of a Brazilian crowd, because people felt like, and he felt like, his last fight against Merab Dvalishvili was just a very unsatisfying way for Jose Aldo to go out. It was a boring fight. It was Rob just holding him up against the cage half the time. And it was just point fighting. And it just, for a guy, a legend like Aldo, to go out like that, I don't think that's how he wants to go out. I think he wants to go out in front of a Brazilian crowd. More memorable fight. Kind of go out in his shield a little bit. Not like Korean Zombie, hopefully, but, like something exciting. Split decision loss. So split decision win for Jonathan Martinez. And if I do exact method of victory on that, plus 600. Let's go.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah. Go with the split decision.
No. So
he's going to steal one of those scorecards. I'm telling you.
I agree. I think he will. I think expecting him to lose all 3 rounds is crazy, especially in Brazil, and especially when it's up to the judges, right? You might actually lose all 3 rounds, but in a place like Rio, and then when it's up to the judges, you'd have to assume at least one of them gives a round to Jose there. So
one of them might give 2.
Yeah. And then we're winners.
Yeah. That's why I said split decision, because I think maybe he'll steal an entire scorecard, but
Yeah. Cool. Final fight of the night: Alexandre Pantoja versus Steve Erceg. We got the Best Buy King versus the Prince of Rio.
Yeah.
No, that was great. I actually, with the lead up to the fight and all the videos the UFC's been posting and all that, like they always do, I've grown to like Steve.
Me too.
He seems like a very just casual guy who's going out there to have fun. He's ranked 10th. I don't know when the last time that's happened, when the 10th ranked fighter is fighting the champion.
I don't know either, actually, but he just knocked out Matt Schnell. He had a pretty incredible knockout. He only has 3 fights in the UFC. It's one of the fastest title shot accelerations that we've seen. Like Anderson Silva fought for the title on his second fight. I think Brock Lesnar did as well. I forget. There are a couple of people that fought for the title, like within 1 or 2, 3 fights fighting in the UFC.
I think Pereira might be the most recent example too. I don't know.
I think it was 4 for Pereira, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been 4. Yeah. Erceg, though, like, is not this like household name. So what he's done is kind of incredible to get to this point. This might be a matter of timing here, where Pantoja really wanted to fight on the Rio card. Muhammad Makayev wasn't going to be ready. Manel Kape keeps missing weight. Brandon Moreno just lost. Brandon Royval just fought for the title, so they didn't want to do that again. So I think it was just a matter of timing, and Erceg made the most sense.
Yeah, I agree. It fully comes down to timing with this one, but you can't discredit him. Everybody thought of him as a grappler, and then in his last fight versus Matt Schnell there, he knocked him out or TKO him, right? And yeah, so now it's kind of, I think what it might come down to is he's only had 3 fights in the UFC. Pantoja hasn't seen much of him, and he might be very underrated by the bookkeepers. We just haven't seen enough of Erceg, which means that it's also harder for Pantoja to prepare against a guy like that, right? Because there's not enough game film of him. With that being said, I think Pantoja is the favorite for a reason. I think there's a good chance he wins, but I actually like the bet on Steve Erceg. I'd love to see him win. I think he's coming in with the right mentality. He knows it's going to be hostile. He's taking it all in. He's loving it. And I think when somebody can do that, they can really set themselves up for success, which is why I have Erceg winning this one, which I think might be our first disagreement on the card, or you might be with me. I don't know.
I have Steve Erceg winning too. And okay. I think he has some slick boxing, man. I love Pantoja. I think that his ability, the way that I guess he didn't lose a round to Brandon Royval on the verdict scorecard. He won every single round. He fought brilliantly against Brandon Moreno when they first fought. I think that Pantoja has every tool. I think that this is going to be a very close fight. Whatever happens, I think it's going to be very close. I think Erceg has the size on Pantoja that he's not used to for guys that he's fought. Yeah, he fought Royval in his last fight, who's a little bigger. But the problem with that is Royval was trying to keep it to like boxing, kind of like a sparring match a little bit, where I think Erceg's not going to be afraid to get in there with Pantoja, who has excellent grappling for the division. Truly an excellent grappler. Pantoja gets hit a lot, and that's my problem, is that I think Pantoja he takes too many shots. And if Erceg has extra power that he's not used to in that division, then I think Erceg has a chance to drop him in this fight as well. And then the fight goes to the mat, and you have a compromised fighter and you're grappling, and then we know how that ends. Yeah. So I like Erceg as well. I just don't know how I want to bet it, simply because I don't love betting decision against the main event Brazilian at home in Brazil. I just don't love that. And I don't think that he's going to tap out either if he gets submitted. So I do like KO or TKO plus 450. There we go. Cody Gush. Steve via TKO shocks the world. Got nothing to lose. Hey, if Cody Gush says so, Jesse Rowe says so.
Yes, sir.
Let's go. Yeah. Steve Erceg by TKO or KO plus 400. I like that bet.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Yeah, I think Steve Erceg, just straight up money line, is also a decent bet, plus 150.
It is. It's really good. It's probably safer.
Yeah, just a smidge. But I think this takes us to our parlay of the night. I don't know. Are you able to pull that up, or let's see if we can get this figured out? Because I have another kind of little bet here that I like. Yeah, there we go. So So my parlay of the night is I have Erceg plus 5.5. I think that's the safest bet you can go with Erceg, because if it goes to decision, which it very likely could go to decision if Pantoja wins, I don't think he's going to win all 5 rounds, which is what the odds makers have him doing right now. Right? So worst case, Erceg doesn't win. He's still going to cover the spread. I think it's a great cover, minus 115. We got Michel Pereira have that fight going over 1.5 rounds. That's at plus 124. Jose Aldo is also going to cover the point spread of plus 3.5 at minus 165. That gives you a plus 572 parlay total. $100 gets you 672.59. Yeah, I think it's a decent parlay. What do you think, Jesse?
I like it. I like parlays like that where you get a little more specific with the because I've never bet that way. I've never bet fights where you're betting on the point spread. I normally don't do that, but I do like that a lot, simply for those specific fights too. I think that was smart, because I do think Pantoja by decision is a much more likely thing than Erceg by decision. So it's if Pantoja wins, then how many rounds does he cover? Well, if Erceg gets a straight up win, he covers it anyway, right?
Exactly.
So I like that. Smart.
Yeah, and you know what? I think you've never bet it before, because I think DraftKings is the only bookkeeper to offer it. I don't know. I could be wrong in that, so don't quote me. But I haven't seen anyone else offer that in the past. So when I saw it this morning, I thought it was super interesting. And it might be my new way of betting, honestly. I feel like betting the point spread is a really, really, I don't know, I just feel confident with it a lot of the time.
I like that too. It's going to be my new thing. I'm going to have to do a little more research on the historic results of the odds on that.
Yeah.
But just for the record here, I'm going to put all my picks together that we've done tonight. Just looking for the main event. Okay. So if you bet Erceg, Martinez, Petrino, Pereira, Borraio, and Jack Shore, it's a plus 1,500, plus 1,479. Just for the record, if you want to, if we go 6 for 6, that'll be $10 wins 150. So
we'll sprinkle a little bit on that for sure.
Yeah. Those are the ones I like to just throw $10 down on. I don't throw a lot on those.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, that was another episode of Insider Betting. Jesse, been a pleasure. We're going to be back every Thursday. I actually we typically go on at 5 p.m. Pacific. Today we went on at 3 p.m. Pacific. I kind of liked it. I think a little bit earlier is better, so we'll probably keep it at that moving forward, or around this time.
Yeah, get in there before people go to dinner on the East Coast.
Exactly.
But also right before people get off work on the West Coast. You know, maybe you're like winding down at your work day and you want to put a podcast in. We're right here for you.
Exactly. It's a Thursday, right? It's basically Friday, which means that you're not doing work anyway, so you might as well toss us on.
It's a mental Friday.
Exactly. Yeah. Awesome, Jesse. Okay. We'll chat next week, brother. Let's go win some money.
Let's go. And I'm going to go out into the streets of Rio right now. Get some sun.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Awesome, guys. Peace.
Later, guys.